All right. Well, we're going to get started with our session here. So, John and Maria and Natalia, if you're going to hang on, we'd love for you to join us up front here, and we can get nice and intimate for social innovation and entrepreneurship. So, before we fully jump into the session, want to one just kind of set some context. So, we're here for Global Entrepreneurship Week. So, we got over 20 events taking place across the week. Celebrating the role innovation and entrepreneurship plays in our community. My name is Cameron Law. I serve as the executive director here at the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. We have Arlene Miranda, who heads up our operations and marketing. So a lot of the communications you saw was likely coming from her. And yeah, we're excited to be stewarding this week. And one, we just wanted to recognize that this week isn't just taking place in Sacramento. So we're actually joining over 200 countries across the globe and celebrating entrepreneurship and its role in building thriving communities. So I guess the tagline of this year is Entrepreneurs Thrive here, and that's certainly what we aim to do. And looking forward to diving into this discussion in a minute with Rachel about social innovation and entrepreneurship. But we wouldn't be able to do it without our amazing sponsors. So about 5 years ago, we had the support of Western Health Advantage, who came in and made sure that this was an opportunity for all students and people in our community to celebrate entrepreneurship by endowing this Global Entrepreneurship Week. And so we've been really grateful for their support, and has allowed us to really take this from just being a campus-oriented thing to something that's across the region. So we can give them some love here. We'll give them the round of applause. Thank you. All right. And then next we have our angel sponsors. So we have SMUD and Sandhill Global Advisors, who are key partners in helping us advance this week as well. So let's give them some love. And if you want to check out some of the SMUD table, we do have Franklin back over there, who's usually at the SMUD table, and you can check out their resources, particularly their seed program if you're in the small business space. Then we have our startup sponsor. We have Five Star Bank. We have Maria over here representing. So very good. Thank you for being here. And then we have our idea sponsors, Golden One Credit Union, City of Roseville, and the College of Continuing Education. So thank them for being our sponsors as well. But now we're going to hop into the meat of the discussion. We have Rachel Minnick, who has an awesome title, the Chief Collaboration Officer at Pro Youth and Families. I mean, when I first got to really get to know Rachel through she was the executive director of Reading Partners, and we got to work pretty closely there when I was at Social Venture Partners. And so I'm going to just kind of share a little bit about how you got into like the nonprofit and entrepreneurship space, and just a little bit more about kind of what does it mean to be a chief collaboration officer and what does that actually entail?
I don't even know how to explain the whole journey. I also wanted to say thank you, Five Star Pro Youth and Family Space. Thank you so much. Gosh, my journey has not been a planned one, and probably for many of you, you might relate to that too. If you're entrepreneurial in nature or you have ideas that don't quite fit in any of the boxes, and I think I was always a little bit like that. I always said I was a bad follower, and so like a good person but a bad follower. So for me, I really kind of have it following my gut. I really care about young people. I worked in education for a long time and was really frustrated by working in education and kind of seeing the same things done when I was in school still being done now, and just feeling like this does not work. Why do we keep doing it? And I'm not going to be able to work. I thought I would want to be a teacher. Definitely did not want to be a teacher because I couldn't follow the rules. So I realized I just needed to do something different. So I thought, I'll work with youth in the nonprofit space. So for a long time, I ran after school programs. I did like summer day camp programs with the YMCA, worked for school districts, but worked in their after school space where you can call your own shots a little bit more. And it just kind of grew from there. So I got my degree in liberal studies, essentially like general education degree, but it helps you think. And so I'm kind of grateful. Thank you for the nod. Everyone's like, what is that degree? Um, and so it really helped me think, it helped me write. It kind of gave me a lot of things I didn't necessarily need later. And so I just kind of started working in the nonprofit space that way. And my way up. What I learned was being an executive director. So I was the executive director at Reading Partners Sacramento for 5 years. Is it's lonely. It's really lonely. It's hard to be an executive director. And um, uh, Reading Partners is a national nonprofit. So I was in the Sacramento region, but there's Reading Partners in 14 other communities across the country who do things differently in every community. But Reading Partners has a way of doing things that I think is good, but I think it needed to innovate. So I was just like, y'all need to innovate, like do some differently. Things here in Sacramento aren't working so well. And they're like, no, no, not really. No. Well, then the pandemic hit and they were not ready because they were one-on-one in person in school tutoring model. Yeah, cameras are volunteers can't come to campus. Kids then can't come to campus. And we were like, oh, 2 weeks, deep team. Remember that? Deep team. Elko Unified was like, no, closing down. Ridiculous. How dare you? We know where that led. But I knew that how we innovated, we probably could have been more ready. So in the background, I had been kind of talking to other nonprofit executive directors. This whole system is broken. Fundraising is broken. How we interact with each other is broken. We're all competing. It's just broken. I had been having these conversations with other peers for years. And we started talking about how we could work together. So on the side, we were doing this thing called the Youth and Family Collective, which was like one day ready to work together. We don't know when, we don't know what, we don't know who's going to listen to us, but we're just being buddies. So then the pandemic hit, and I had already given notice at Reading Partners. I gave notice at Reading Partners February 15th of 2020. Yeah, had no idea what was coming. And one of my pals, the CEO of Pro Youth and Families, was like, after the pandemic hit, she's like, the city of Sacramento has all this money that they need to get out to the community fast. Can you hop on board and help us figure it out? And I was like, yes, get sign me up. I'm there. We'll do this. And we worked with the city of Sacramento and we basically put out $250,000 out to the community within probably 2 months of the time that they actually gave us the money to us figuring it out, choosing which community partners we would work with. And it just created this structure for organizations to work together. And so that's the structure that I've refined and used. So we have shared data collection. We have a system for getting payments out to them. Essentially, we manage community-based organizations who work directly with you, and we support them. So so many times as a nonprofit leader, there's nobody there to take care of you. There's literally nobody to take care of you. If you're really small, it's hard to get big grants. It's hard to work with the city of Sacramento. It's hard to work with the state. So we kind of serve as that intermediary. Funds come through us, and then we help support getting those dollars out to our community partners. So we've been able to get over $6 million literally into the hands of youth and nonprofit organizations for the past 3 years. I know, pretty cool. And we reached about 4,000 youth, so it's pretty amazing stuff. Honestly.
Very good. Well, a lot there, and I think one of the things, just like hearing your journey, was the entrepreneurial mindset of like seeing the gaps and the opportunities, and then trying to find a solution, whether that was through a nonprofit or some sort of other type of organization. And I know just when I was at Social Venture Partners, we one of the challenges was this kind of back end support. Right, all nonprofits are having to like manage their own 990s, their all the like back end element. Often they're asked by funders like, what's your admin or what's your overhead, right? That's the go to, and it was like, well, this is going to our team to like marketing, and that's years for trade going back and forth. Um, and so it was like, really, how can we get power in numbers by actually putting this kind of collective together, and allowing those dollars to go that much further. So I love that the Youth and Family Collective has come to fruition. And so, I would love to get a little bit more of like your thoughts when I think of like social entrepreneurship and innovation is like oftentimes we start of like where government services might not continue to go on. So like in the education space, like where are we not meeting the needs in relation to reading or, in terms of, obviously the housing challenge that we had in Sacramento, how our innovators and entrepreneurial people hopping into that. And so we'd love to learn a little bit more about kind of like how you view innovation and entrepreneurship in that kind of social space. And obviously the models are different than the usual traditional for-profit.
I think in some ways there's a lot of similarities. So I think the big difference is that people who work in nonprofit are some of the most innovative people I've ever worked with because when you have guardrails like this tight, you get really creative with what you have. All of us like I grew up with a single mom. My single mom could figure out, how to MacGyver any situation. Like, oh, the dryer broke. Okay, well, we're gonna hang wet clothes here, 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 and here. Just the more narrow your scope is, the more innovative you have to be. So, but the difference is our partners do not call themselves entrepreneurs. They don't think of themselves as that many times, even though they're so creative. They will look at like me how to do better all the time. They're like, we've been doing this, we've been doing that. I'm like, this is what you do, what works best for you that you work with in your community, you know better than I. I'm just here to make sure you get paid to do that. So I think some of it is mindset. I think sometimes there's a mindset that like nonprofits are less than. Um, or I'll hear people go, I've been a nonprofit and they've been on a board. I'm not trying to discount if you're on a board, thank you, but it's not the same thing as the day-to-day operation. So I think a lot of times it is really honoring community-based organizations for being exactly what they need to be and where they need to be versus, oh, you need to get better and we're going to tell you how to get better instead of listening to what they need. So I've really reframed. Like there is a narrative that there's too many nonprofits. How many of you have you heard that? I used to be in the soapbox of that. Oh, Cameron still says, but I would ask you, do we say that about other types of businesses, organizations? Do we say that? Why are there so many coffee houses? They should all get together and merge into one coffee house. No, we don't say that. We don't say those things because it doesn't make sense. Every small nonprofit that I've worked with has a very unique niche place, a group of people that they reach more than anybody else. They don't need to get bigger necessarily. They might not even want to get bigger. They might not want to merge with the organization over here who does something different. When I was a reading partners, what I learned is the bigger you are, the harder it is for you to change. So our small community-based partners really can shift, and they'll get a lot of the narrative of like you should have a single clear mission, explains who you are, value proposition. It's very business. But what I've seen is the nonprofits that survived through the pandemic, the ones were like, oh my gosh, the kids need food. Okay, well, we started off, focusing on education, but right now our kids need food, and we have that connection, that ability to get that to them. They need mental health supports. We're going to shift so that we can support the need. So I really see it more as rather than a single mission, like we help kids read on grade level to the third grade, but that we are committed to this neighborhood, to this group of kids, and we are going to do what it takes to help those kids. So that is a little bit of a shift in how people think about nonprofits. Because if you sit with a nonprofit consultant, they're going to say, "What's your single mission? Tell us your story in 3 minutes or less." To my friends but it's not that simple. And one single large organization cannot meet the needs of the community. They just can't. They might be able to do something because of economies of scale, but really that small, true, deep connection is built with smaller organizations. I've seen it with my own eyes for the past 3 years. And in the past, I was definitely like, oh, they're so small, they can't do anything. Yes, they can, and they are. So that's a big difference to me.
I love that. I think this
Good.
maybe
Okay.
we'll give it a go
More
here.
juice.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, very good. All right. So I think one of the things, you talked about like getting so big that you can't change. And I know we've talked a little bit about one of the programs that you've done around like entrepreneurship and education. But also I think the same is just for like large organizations. Like how do you innovate and be entrepreneurial when there's oftentimes restrictions on the ways that you do that? I know, even within SVP or reading partners, right, was like this is your script of how you have to use the brand or how you have to use these programs and things like that. And so sometimes you're tied in how you go about doing that. And so one would love to like, if you have any stories of maybe how you did that and push the edge, but then also like how as an executive director, say of reading partners or what you're doing now, how you manage the challenge of that. Because I found in my own experience that sometimes it leads to burnout when you're not able to, do the things that you want to do or you're doing them and, it feels like going against the grain for sure. So we'd love to get some insight there.
Yeah, you're not going to change a whole school system. Like you know that, right? You know that we're not going to do that. And with big funders like the state, like the federal government, you're not going to change everything that they do. But I always try to read whenever you get a big grant. Yeah, you get like a funding document that tells you all the things you have to do, all the things you can't do, and I will read through it for as many possible ways to interpret. Not, and I'm not being, I'm not saying like don't follow rules. That's not what I'm saying. But one example is we received a grant where you could use the funds for consulting, pay consultants, and you can also have sub grantees. A consultant be like, Cameron, I want you to build a website for us, and I'm going to give you $5,000. Cool. We just write a contract, website, $5,000, good to go. Grantees, it was like a competitive process. You have to select them. You have to have a contract. You have to follow every last receipt for every penny that they've spent. And I looked at it and was like, why can't a community-based organization be a consultant? Why? There was no place I could find that said that I could not do that. I was like, they are experts in youth. They are experts in their community. I am going to consult with them. They're going to be our consultants for this youth development project. And that's how we're going to roll it. So I still did some of the competitive process so I could figure out who to work with, but you would do that with consultants in some cases too. So I was able to create kind of a different contracting process, still within the rules, but it made the paperwork process a lot easier because if you try to follow every last dollar for every grant for a small nonprofit, like show me every receipt for every pizza, every office supply that you bought, your internet, they're just trying to work directly with youth. It's really, really difficult to ask them to do that. And I would not ask you, the consultant, to be like, Cameron, can you show me the receipt for, the coffee that you bought or did you sit down and work with someone else on this grant? Why don't you just, did you pay them? Did you pay a subcontractor for graphic design? No, I don't ask you that. I just give you money because you're an expert. But apparently, small CBOs not experts. I think they're definitely experts. So that was one of the kind of just I always look for what's another way? What's another way to do this? How do we do it better? And then I also just look at what other like are there technology platforms out there that can help us monitor attendance to help us with just tracking different things that we have to do. So I use a whole bunch of different little stack things like that just to help me manage the process. And it's so that's kind of I guess an example. So it's like I'm not using the system tools to my advantage and to the advantage of the partners. That's the big thing. okay, well, our back end, but they don't have any administrative hurdles to jump through to be part of a project.
So I think one of the things I love that is well, that's a great example. When we often look at nonprofits, usually goes to grants or donations as kind of a main revenue source. Would be curious of like how maybe some of the members, and I don't know if it's in a collective still or how that structure is, but how have they found innovative ways to maybe monetize their work? Right, and oftentimes, having come to the Carlson Center, I have a different perspective and looking at the nonprofit model and realizing that what we're doing is we're creating impact, and likely if we're selling, if we have our donation base, we're selling that story and data to a donor that's willing to basically purchase it, right? So it's kind of like a platform business. But would be curious of how some of these other organizations have monetized what they've done in a more like fee for service, or if you've seen that in terms of being innovative across that, and if not, um,
No, no, no. I think people are wired differently in nonprofits. So I think for me, it's more like how do we how do we get them as much money as possible is really my thing. I think the nonprofits that I work with, I wouldn't say we're seeing them necessarily. I'm trying to think. Like I think it's merch and stuff like that. We have a couple partners that are like have really dope merch, like really cool. I want all the sweatshirts. I want all of that, and uh, they do sell it, which is kind of cool. But I don't really see that as the mindset. I think the mindset is different, not so much monetizing, but for me, like how can we just get how can we, as in my role in my organization, pull down good money based partners and make it easier for them to get it. And I don't mean like there's no accountability, there's lots of accountability in our projects, but that for me, it's more like how do I hack the grant making process? How do I get money out so that they have more time to do other things and it's transparent, it's quick. So it's not so much monetizing it. And for me, I would like to, I'm trying to figure out how to really capture some of the recipe of what we do so that other communities can do it. Because what I'm doing is not like, ooh, I'm not Albert Einstein, I'm just using the resources that are out there in a way that helps other people. And so I think other people can do it and probably have different resources in their community that they could leverage that could, take it to a whole different level. So I think it's a little bit just a shift of mindset so much, but nothing against monetizing, like something that people want and can buy. Yeah, definitely.
So I think in terms of, I think the other side of that is obviously, so the one, whether they're drawing down money through you or however that looks, the other side is kind of the impact element. And sometimes it's always hard to sometimes articulate both a qualitative and or quantitative, that data side of things. And so I'd be curious if there's any organizations that stand out that are really good about kind of telling that story both through kind of data and the or qualitative storytelling element of it.
Yeah, we all of our projects we use a shared data collection. So imagine if each one of you is your own individual nonprofit, you're part of a project. We provide kind of a shared survey platform for youth. So we're all kind of working on a similar project. For example, we've got one right now that is focused on marijuana prevention for youth. So just helping youth understand how using marijuana impacts their developing brains, and just trying to see if they understand the harm that's part of it. Because a lot of people are like, it's no big deal, it's a plant, and it's actually really dangerous for their brains. And we wanted to see measure if it changes perception of harm. So each of you are doing your own youth programming around this issue with some general guidelines. I try to keep it low prescription as possible so that you're able to still your organizations, but then um, give this survey to your youth, you get the data back from everybody, so you kind of see, you might only be serving 10 youth each, but together, right? So that is part of it. And then the other part is we ask partners to collect artifacts and share them with us, whether that's videos, artwork, events that they did. Just show us what you did, and it is incredible. So we had the partner I was talking about with all the awesome merchandise is named Impact Sack, and Impact Sack is they just have such a great way of telling their story. And when we were writing this grant for this marijuana prevention funding, if any grant to the state of California before, oh, good, please don't. It's hard. And my colleague and I were kind of losing it. We were just kind of losing it. Just we were getting goofy because we were tired, and we had to come up with a name for our project. And so Tommy said, let's just call it Chuck Yo Weed. Chuck Yo Weed, which we did not name it. But I was talking to Impact SAC, and Paris, who's their executive director, she's like, I'm using, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be a it was amazing. So if you go on Instagram, check out Impact Sack. They took Chuck Your Weed to this level that it was the youth had fun with it. They learned. They did all kinds of amazing social media around it. So it made a topic that could be something like this, that's your thing, to something that felt much more youth friendly, approachable. It had humor but seriousness to it, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness, they really did that. Created amazing merchandise, and just it just made it really, really exciting to watch." And then we had another partner from Sacramento Youth Center who, for that same project, they taught the youth basically how to work in a recording studio, and the youth created and produced their own video. So they wrote all the lyrics. They made this amazing hip hop song. Like you're like, right, it's probably like public television rap, right? No, it was so good. So they showed this video where the kids are sharing, they're like dropping some knowledge on people, but it was so cool to watch it. We showed it during our youth graduation, and the kids are so zoomed out at this point. And that video came on, and the chat just blew up with youth like, "Oh, where can I get this? How can I get this? This is amazing." It was so cool. So they posted that to their social media. So Impact Sacramento Youth Center are two, but we have many other partners that just have really partnered with us, but kept their identity, like kept who they are, and took the resources, took the ideas, and just took it to like a whole. If I was like, make a video about marijuana, that would be bad. But I just said, what project do you all want to do? They were like, we're gonna make a video. I was like, cool. And then it came out, and I was like, this is incredible. It is incredible. So just seeing nonprofits really lean into who they are and their strategies and their identities and just take it to the next level is so cool.
What makes me think of just like knowing your customer or beneficiary, like who you're targeting, right? Was like relating to them in the language that they're speaking and giving that space to it is certainly a key element. So love that story. So I'll have to go check out Impact SAC for sure. After this question, would love to kind of see if there's any audience questions. But if someone's interested in kind of getting into the social impact or innovation space and maybe has an idea for something new or looking to navigate that ecosystem, like what would be kind of the recommendations in getting started? I'm thinking partly like resources, but also like what's a good first step to getting started in that pathway to trying to create an impact or change?
I think there's so many different ways. Every one of you is unique. Every one of you has something different that you get excited about. And I think that's really the secret to me. Um, so community partners same are the same. So you might have some sort of a dream in your heart that is, I want to create a nonprofit, and there aren't too many nonprofits. So you go and do your nonprofit, and I will be there to support you. And I'm always happy to talk with folks about different ways to find resources. So that's something that sometimes we have funding opportunities that are coming up that I love to just bring in new folks. Sometimes it's people that are trying to apply for grants but don't always understand the paperwork stuff that you have to have in place to do that. So I'm always happy to talk to people about. It's not exciting, but I'm always happy to talk to people about. Oh, do you have your attorney general status in place? Have you, you know, all of those fun things? But it's important because a lot of funding does require those administrative checkboxes there. And then I would just say, like, pay attention to nonprofits. So if you have something, if you even want to donate to a nonprofit, really learn about them, get to know them. They do appreciate people with ideas, people who get behind them, and people who don't want to try to fix them. I think that's the big thing, because you wouldn't want that either. If you have a business idea and then someone's like, well, we all want feedback, but then there's just things that are not helpful. So I would just say, you might have something to give, you might have something to offer, you might have a time, talent, or skill, like recording artists, like people who can write lyrics, people who know how to do art. What financial literacy? Honestly, financial literacy was such a popular topic with youth. They earn stipends in all the programs that we do, and they love they we offered, I can't even believe this was so popular. We offered a platform, a learning platform through this company called Imago. And Imago is amazing, and they have all kinds of different things to help with like workforce training and stuff like that. It's all self-paced, and the most popular lessons were all financial literacy. So these were ones you chose. I was kind of like, are the adults telling them they have to do it? No. They were like, I learned about credit cards, I learned about credit, I learned about all this stuff. And I was like, that is so cool. So, you may have resources like that are more in that like adulting 101. I don't like the term adulting really, but you may have professional skills that a youth can benefit from, and also your own career journey is super important, because when we ask youth what career fields they want to go into the most, the number one answer that we always get is they want to start something on their own. They want to be entrepreneurs, they want to build their own businesses. Gen Z does not play, they want to call their shots. So, you, as innovators, can be really, really helpful in that space to really honor that, because for a lot of us coming up, it was like, just get a job. That was my mother. You don't have to like it, you have to go. I was like, okay, thanks. So, being supportive of that entrepreneurial mindset. A lot of times, our partners are doing things like business pitchathons, all the things that you've all seen, and I love nothing more than sitting in on those and giving youth feedback on their ideas. So you could also be an amazing support that way, because you have that mindset. You're not there to shut them down, you're there to help give feedback that can help elevate that idea to the next level. Have you thought about this? Or what would you do if this happened? And all of you are here because that is how you think. So those are some thoughts.
All right, would love to see if we have any questions from any of you out there around social innovation, entrepreneurship, or just I think even leading like nonprofit space or working in that space. Yeah, Richard. Yeah, go for it. And I'll
See you.
But what would you say is a way to start connecting some of those nonprofits? Like you said, there's not too many, but there are a lot. And how do you, from your experience, get them to start operating in unison with alignment towards a specific objective?
So I'm kind of a like Have you ever seen that meme where it's like, introverts unite all by yourselves, it's in separate rooms? It's kind of like that, where it's like, the way I've tried to spin it is, there's sadly I have to do it like this, but it's like, where's the money? Where's the money coming from? Okay, there's a lot of money in mental health for youth. There's a lot of funding right now in because of the recreational legalization of cannabis. So there's a lot of marijuana money. So I look at like, what are some collaborative grant opportunities that we could do? And then I put out a call. Usually I've done like kind of like open forums where I've talked to people like, hey, what are your thoughts about youth mental health? And like just inviting nonprofits to come and, just kind of have like a discussion that's somewhat structured, just to see like who's interested in that topic or who wants to move more into that topic. Here's a funding opportunity that we're thinking of pursuing. Is this something that seems interesting to you? Because the like issues like marijuana are really tricky, because we do have community partners that are like, I am not touching that. I am not talking about that. All of our parents are doing it. Our youth are using it for mental health, and I'm not going to take that away from them. And I'll be like, that's great. This is not going to be a good fit for you. No disrespect to anyone. But so I kind of look at it like, where is their funding? And then bringing people together to see who's interested in potentially looking to work together. So a lot of times like Pro Youth will apply for those grants, but we have to have like usually like a list of people who've said, yep, if Pro gets this funding, we want to offer this program to our youth. So I usually have between 5 and 10 community partners who will sign on to a letter, or they'll write us a letter, or we'll have like an MOU kind of document. So I just kind of look at it like issue based, like where are the issues that people are passionate about. I've seen community partners rally around some of the really significant community violence that was happening, is still happening, but in the South area. So we had partners that, together were really coming together just to talk through what's out there, what money is out there, who should we be talking to. But I look at it like issues. What are the issues that are like speaking to you, that you see? Because chances are there are other folks, and just like literally reach out to them, literally email, direct message, LinkedIn. A lot of partners are on LinkedIn these days. So just find a way to make a connection. Even just have a coffee with one person. I know that sounds like really cheesy, but it works. It does, because we're trying to just build and get to know each other.
I just really have more of a comment than a question. I just admire you for being an innovator. Do you ever think of yourself as an innovator?
Every day.
Okay, good.
I so own it.
Yes, because you're maximizing the resources and finding really creative ways to seek opportunities. And I think that's tremendous.
It's just like hacking the system, just like, how do you maneuver? Right? So for Strengths Finder, my number one strength is maximizer. And my Enneagram, if any of you are Enneagram nerds, is the challenger. So I'm a terrifying person. I really just try to think about, instead of seeing deficits, seeing what is there. Because a lot of times that's what people think about with the social sector, is like, they don't have this and they can't do that. And, no, they're not broken. The system around it is broken, but the nonprofits themselves are not broken. And instead of trying to change them, it's like, let's look at what they really bring to the table and work from that versus trying to fix things. So thank you. That's a really nice comment, though. I appreciate that. That's a big deal for me. And like, should I talk about my school thing too?
Sure,
yeah. So the other thing Cameron and I were talking about is I had a great graduate program that I went through at UOP that I don't know if they totally offer it exactly anymore. But I have a master's degree in education, but it's an educational entrepreneurship. So it's really about how you innovate in the system. How do you take the stuff that's this big giant behemoth that's been around forever, and then find ways to make things happen for people. that was such a transformative experience to go through that and work with people who were innovators, but were innovators who weren't like, I'm going to create a product. They're not, you think about it in the traditional sense, it's like tech, right? These were not tech people. These were people that are teachers, um, nonprofit people like me, and all just were like, there's got to be a better way. And so we learned a lot of the same lean startup and all of the different things that you learn when you're doing any kind of innovation. But then we applied it to social stuff, and it was really awesome. So that program, do you work with Brett Taylor?
Yeah, he's no longer at that program.
He moved, I think, but yeah. So one of my mentor, Brett Taylor, was the person who founded that program. He was an educational entrepreneur guy and just really just supported creativity and creativity in any space, which I just can't say enough about that. And I think they're doing like a certificate type of a program. So it's offering some of the similar things that I learned, but there weren't enough of us. I think there were 10 people in my cohort. And then the next cohort, I think there were like 6. And education's tough these days, especially in the private sector education. So that program did not probably pan out so well. It was an innovation that did not survive, unfortunately, but there are places and people who will support this within the education and nonprofit space. Thank you.
Any additional questions? If not, I will follow up.
Okay.
I'm going to apologize. I do come more from the for-profit than nonprofit, but there's some things that came out of what you said that I thought I'd like to learn more about. So I understand that every case is different, every neighborhood, every school, every town is different. But there are some things that come out that are commonalities. When you talk about someone, why do all nonprofits, or why should they have to go back to square one to start when there are other examples or best practices, sorry to put the business, there are things that came out that could be helpful to help them get to where they want to go faster, or examples of programs. I mean, how is that shared, the outcomes and the results is it shared so that people can grow and build on what's been done as opposed to go back to the drawing board?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I agree with you. I think there's one example that I'll share is just the theories of positive youth development. So positive youth development is a very common researched. No, there's just parts of it. Trusted adults, finding meaning and purpose, being involved in your community. So all of those things are well known, well documented, and that's something that we promote within our programs and projects. So that's what we ask partners a lot of times to talk about is how does what you do support positive youth development? So a lot of times it's stuff that they're doing that we sometimes will just reframe. Like, you are doing positive youth development. You might not use that buzz term, but that is what you're doing. So sometimes for us, I think it's more like retranslating grassroots work for folks like you, where you're like, okay, are they reinventing the wheel? And I'm like, no, they're doing a unique program for their community, but it has the elements of positive youth development. So I think it's just a different mindset. It's not so much like small nonprofits don't want to utilize things. We also, for many of our grants, have to utilize things like evidence-based curriculum. So for us, it's how do we take something like an evidence-based curriculum that's required and work with nonprofits to translate that curriculum to make it as youth-friendly as possible for their neighborhood, their community. So it's kind of it's almost like a mix where the two rivers meet, and what they are doing sometimes doesn't get the credit because they don't always use the buzzwords that other folks use. So I think it's there. I think it's a mix of things. Like most of our federal grants, it's like, these are the evidence-based things that we know work to prevent teen pregnancy. Find partners who will do one or more of these things. And that's what we do. So it's rolling up to practices.
More top down. So for example, that financial literacy thing sounds amazing. I'm sure there are other community, city situations where that would be a wonderful solution for their youth problems. And how does that get communicated? So someone in Miami could say, oh, this is, we have similar problems. We have to solve it our way, but how about this? This is a great model. Maybe we can go after funding because this works so well in Sacramento. I mean, is there that kind of sharing?
I see that from funders more. I will say we have grants with the county, the city, the state, and the federal government. And the federal government is actually the easiest and most innovative to work with. I know that's probably surprising. It was surprising to me. And they are amazing at taking innovative practices and promoting them across the country, whether it is in webinars, whether it's convenings, whether it's white papers, all kinds of things that they do. And then they have technical assistance, kind of like support, I guess is the best way I can describe it, where people who are like, I'm trying to figure out how to solve this issue. Who else is doing it? And then they have this kind of clearinghouse of supports. They'll connect you with people. They'll connect you with research or literally just individuals in other communities that are doing it. So the feds are actually, especially around teen pregnancy prevention, particularly, we're seeing a lot of innovation in that area and a lot of just nationwide collaborative activities and efforts. So it does happen. I think partners and people just sometimes see it differently, where they're not as concerned with it. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't be, but it's very much like this is my community and this is what I want to do for my community. I don't necessarily feel like I can go bigger, or maybe they don't want to. Sometimes that's just how it is. Yeah. Thank you for that question. It's like, I know I'm going to get challenged. It's okay. I love it.
Any last comments or questions for Rachel here? All right. Well,
thank you, Cameron.
yeah, of course. Well, let's give Rachel a round of applause and thank you for spending your time with us and sharing a little bit about the impact and innovation space and how can they learn more about Pro Youth and Families and plug into the community of nonprofits that you serve. And then we'll call it a wrap.
ProYouthAndFamilies.org is our website, and our website is not good. So I need to hire you, Cameron. Or something.
I'll take the 5,000.
Right? I know. Yeah, and then I'm Rachel M. at ProYouthAndFamilies.org, RACHEL.M. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Of a nonprofit I should be talking to. That's my favorite thing in the whole world. So, I see a hand already. No, we're currently just in Sacramento. My goal is to build to other communities so that they can replicate the model that we use. But right now we do, I'll say greater Sacramento. We're in Yolo County. We're also in Placer. So we do some services in other greater Sacramento area, but nothing else.
Richard joined us from Baltimore. So
hey, that's where my father-in-law's from. That's cool. Yeah, thank you for that.
Cool. All righty. Well, thank you again, and thank you all for being here. So, all righty. Very good. Oh, last update, we do have a session at 5:30, which is the Sacramento Entrepreneurial State of the Union. So you're more than welcome to hang out. We'll have coffee going, and I can give you the Wi-Fi code if you're in need of it. So thanks for being here. All right.
Thanks, Cameron.
Yeah, thank you very much. Loved hearing the progression of it all.
Is it pro youth and or ampersand?
It's A&D. Yep, all spelled out.
And by the way, Chunky is a hashtag.